Hey, how's it going, guys? This is NatePick, and welcome to my tech world. So today I wanted to actually talk about a little bit of a topic as far as what I actually do with my business. And I kind of want to add more of what you need in order to get to that point. So there are many tools in the IT industry. There's a lot of certain tools that are for exact certain things, but there is a lot of general tools that you can go ahead and get started with that will allow you to start getting into the IT business or getting into the technology business or getting into actually working on your own systems. So today, that's what I wanted to cover, is to kind of go over some of the things that you can use, some of the things that you can work on to get to that particular stage where you're actually working on either your own hardware or somebody else's hardware, or even managing servers or any of that kind of stuff. There's a way to get to there that I'm going to kind of cover some of the basics of what you need. So the obvious set of things that you can own in order to get started on working on PCs simply is screwdrivers. In particular, you'd be surprised how much you need a flathead. You'll be, of course, Phillips. That should be universal, especially in the US. What I also recommend, there's a lot of, especially if you're doing Apple laptops or some HP laptops, they have specialized screw bits that you got to use. So in order to take those screws out, I would also recommend buy something like this. This is a electronic screwdriver that, is basically like a pin, and it does have a light. So if it turns on, there's the light. It gives you a battery indicator. You go, that tightens it down, that loosens it up. So something like this will work. And then it has, all the bits that you can use. And there's multiple different brands. You don't have to buy this exact one. There's some that's way more fancier than this, but this fits right into my backpack. It fits right into my other bag that I like to carry that's a lot bigger at times for extra tools or whatever. So this just slots right in. It's easy. I have most of the bits that I need. So, and I'm struggling to put this back on. There we go. So that normally helps to basically get started. I would say this is your number one thing, is that you're going to have to learn how to use a screwdriver. You're going to have to know what the ends are. You're going to have to know exactly what screwdriver that you need for that particular moment. For example, you can't use that end of the Phillips for every single screw. Sometimes you got to go smaller because the screw head is that small. And there's even smaller than that. So just understand this is probably your number one thing. So the next items are this should be, to me, this should already be in your pockets to begin with, especially if you're a guy and you're doing work anyways. A good knife is always going to be a must. Now, keep in mind, not every place that you can go to, you can actually take a knife. Sometimes they will allow you something like this size. This is a very small little, I call it my opener, because that's basically what it is. The shape and everything, it will open a box and it'll do very well. But at the same time, some places don't even allow this. So maybe you have to use a box cutter. So that's something else that you should also keep in your toolkit. I forgot to grab mine out of here, but that is something that you can use. And then if you have your knife, you need some way to keep them sharp. If you want something quick and simple, this Rada knife cutter actually does really well. It will sharpen it fairly quick, and you just run it through here, couple swipes, and then move on. It will sharpen it. And then this one is a little bit more for what I carry in my pocket. It has a coarse side, it has a fine side, and then of course it has that for full refinement. So instead of having to resharpen it, you can kind of just stroke it on here a little bit and it'll get it back to sharp. Or if you have a piece of leather, you can do something that's called strapping. And a lot of times, if the knife feels dull, you can actually just strap it real quick on the leather. And basically what you do is you take your knife and say this is the leather. You kind of go like this across here with some pressure and just go just like that. That will actually allow you to basically resharpen your knife without having to go through all this again. If it's still not sharp after doing that, then you'll need to go through and actually sharpen your knife again. Now, the next thing that I would say that you would need is some kind of pliers, some kind of grippers, some kind of, especially cutters. These will come in handy quite a bit, especially if you're an IT business and you're cutting with wires. You can use this to cut. There's a lot of things that you can use these for, and there's other things. There's wrenches, there's sockets. I have some deep sockets because I have a one system that the actual bolt is way off in there, so the deep socket will get to it and I can just ratchet it out. A good ratcheting set is one. There's multiple things that you can buy as far as tools that will help you and aid you in the IT business. So understand, just because we're information technology doesn't mean that you're not going to get your hands dirty and actually do some work with proper tools. That's part of the work. And if you're like me and ever ran line on the outside, even having a shovel and a pickaxe, I have done that multiple times, and learning how to put down pipe and how to glue it properly together, how to fish the line and how to snake it through where you want it to go. Like, all that kind of stuff is things that you will have to learn. So having good proper tools will allow you to get to the point. And so, once again, I forgot to grab my needle nose. I just grabbed these 3 out of the bag, but these are something that you can use, that you will use while you're in the field working on things. So I actually forgot to grab these. These are what's called Allen wrenches. These are also one of the biggest things that you're probably going to have to keep in your bag at all times, because you'd be surprised how much tech stuff actually uses Allen keys. So in order to make it your job easier, get you a good set of Allen wrenches. So this is just kind of a little bit extra with what I was talking about just a while ago. Okay, so the next thing that you probably are going to use, especially if you're running any kind of cable, there's a good chance you're going to use something like a good hammer. Now, I bought this one because this is basically a throwaway hammer, but it does have like the little indentation where you can put the nail to get it started and start driving it. And as you can see, I've used it quite a few times, but it's been a pretty good solid hammer, and it's about the right size for me as far as my hand width and how it feels. So that's another thing, is that if you need to buy a hammer to use it, make sure that you're also using something that you can work with, that feels good in your hands, that you can focus with, and learn how to actually start and then go down to choke it. And then you get the rest of it. So there you go. Good hammer. The next one obviously is measuring tape. There's a reason why they say measure twice and cut once, because if you're not careful, you're going to be cutting until you run out of material, and then you have a bunch of short pieces that you can't use. So always keep a measuring tape. This one is only 16 feet, I think. I have several more. I have 20 foot, a 25. I know I have a 35. I have a 50, and I also have a 100, and I don't remember where my 150 is at. I think it's in the actual there. I don't hardly grab that one, but it's there just in case. So a good measuring tape. Next thing is a stud finder. Now, if you know anything about GPUs, you recognize that brand. And yes, Sapphire makes actual stud finders for, finding studs. And what I like about this one is it will also alert you to the presence of any kind of electrical that is running through. It will immediately start beeping and say, hey, there's danger here. You want to get some kind of foam earplugs, because I don't know if you know this, but servers are extremely loud, especially if there's multiple of them in a rack system. So having a good set of foam earplugs, like I said, these are disposables. I actually have some that wrap around my neck. Actually, I take that back. I actually have some that will also allow me to connect Bluetooth to my phone, and then I can listen to music while also protecting my hearing. So that's something else that you could buy. But if you don't want to do that, then just some good disposable foam earplugs. They will save you in the long run. And that's going for anybody that does any kind of work in the trades. A lot of times you're going to be in a loud environment. Get some good foam earplugs and protect your hearing. Okay, so the next set of items that I am going to talk about is, especially if you're doing any kind of networking, you want a good set of crimpers, and you also want a good set of a tester. What I like about this is that I can actually take this part out that has a battery on the inside, stick it on one end, go to the other end of the cable, and actually click this, and it will tell me if there's a miswire or if it's open or if it's short. And If it's shielded, it will also tell me. If it passes, if it doesn't have any of these faults, then it will just show green here. So that's actually a really good thing to test and be able to say, hey, yeah, I've got a fault here, or I've got somewhere here that I need to fix. So having this in your bag is very good. And of course, I have a box full of cable. I am not going to grab it because it's like over 100 foot of cable, and it's quite heavy, and I'm not going to put it up on this desk because, yeah, that's just too much. But I will at least show you this. I've had to buy multiple of these over the years, but you know, you can just keep these in your bags at all time because you never know. I always keep some cable, and I always keep these in my bags just because you never know. These are rated for Cat 6, so that's pretty normal. Most standard homes, you might get into a little bit more. Once you go into a business, they might want Cat 8, they might want something else. So just keep that in mind. There are specialized tools, but this right here is a basic for networking as far as making a cable, and this will get you started. Okay, so the next thing I would say is very important. Always have some kind of power tools. In particular, you're probably going to have use for a drill. You're probably going to have use for an impact drill. Like there's multiple things that you can use in order to do the job that you need to do. Now, this is not what I carry. This is for the home. And for any men that are out there, you know exactly what I just meant. This is for the home. This is not what I carry. So, but I will just say for inside the house, this does work really well, and I don't have any problems with it. I would also recommend getting you one of these. It's one of those things that are very useful that you can use. And what I like about it is that you can actually, you know, do this, or you can unlock it, flip it around. There's your regular drill, goes back, or you can flip it back around, and now you can use it like that. So get you one of these, have some kind of power tools. You're probably going to have to use them. You'd be surprised how many times I've had to pull out a circular saw and use it. You'd be surprised how many times I've had to use a table saw. Understand, just because you're in IT doesn't mean that there's going to be times where you may have to actually build something yourself in order to make something work. So you're going to have to know how to do some things. Do you have to be perfect at it? No, absolutely not. But at least know how to do it and make it look decent and make the customer happy. So another thing that I recommend is always have some kind of lighting source. Now, I usually carry these 3 in particular. And the reason why, this is more of a flat panel, and I can adjust the brightness. So if I need a certain amount of power, it will actually work very well. And I can turn it on and adjust the brightness from here. So I do keep this. It's really good in the bag. Also carry this because it's basically like a little portable lamp. So you can put it like this. These fold out, so you can have it to where you can hang it upside down to where the light will come on, or if you just need to set it down, and you can bend it into place. So that is something that is useful that you can use in order to, you know, basically have some extra light and keep it on the job site with you. And then of course, what I like about this actually has its own battery, so it's chargeable by USB-C, which if my fingers will work, because I have no fingernails, I don't keep any. Anyways, there's a USB-C port right in here that you can charge it with. And then of course, a good old flashlight. This one will actually do 750 lumens, so it's pretty bright and it goes out quite a ways. Of course, it's LED, as you can see, but yeah, this is what I daily carry. And it used to have a clip right here, and I've used it so much that I broke the clip off, and I've never just even tried to replace it and put a different one on. But yeah, this is what I use. Always keep a good lighting source, because you'll never know exactly when you'll need to really see in dark places. And you'll be surprised when you walk into clients' homes how unwell lit their houses are, and the PCs in the dark corner with dust everywhere. Yeah, you want a good lighting source. Trust me. If you're afraid of spiders, I'm telling you, carry a light. I'm not, by the way. Okay, so this next one is always take notes. Have some kind of way to take notes. Either you use a pen or you use a pencil. I like to use a pencil if I'm out in the field. I'll use a pen when I'm in the house, just because I know kind of what I'm already doing at that point. And have a way to take notes. Now, you might be wondering what this little thing is. This is actually an AI voice recorder. And so it comes with an application. I can turn it on and it will allow me to record myself. And if I hit record right now, it will pick up everything that I'm talking about. it will recognize other people that are talking as well. And then when I connect it to my app, it will actually put it out in a script. So this is something that you can also carry. You can turn on just your phone. That's possible too. I don't like doing that because you'll run down your phone battery. So having something that's separate like this is really nice. It literally, I always wear a shirt, button up shirt with a pocket. So I could take this, slide it in, and there you go. So I can talk. They don't really know what's in here, but that's for my notes. Sometimes I'll say, hey, Nate, do this, or hey, Nate, to remember to bring this. And this will automatically record. And then also use regular notes. This is my actual book that I write notes in. Yes, I have my channel. I understand, but shameless plugging, but whatever. But yeah, this is my pen that I like to use. It's quite thick. And so when I'm out in the field, sometimes I can just pull this out and use it to draw a line or whatever. So always have a good pen or pencil, should I say. And you know, this is my fountain pen that Matt got me started on. Thanks a lot. And if I'm at home, this is what I use. There's a lot of my notes there at home. If you see my notebook that's here, it will actually have this. So yeah, this is something that you need to have on hand at all times. And this will allow you to see exactly, you know, what you need to do. It'll keep you organized. It'll keep you focused until the job is done. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to kind of lump together, and this is usually something that I will carry into my bag. And this is, you know, mostly I use these for like phones and laptops, but these are certain tools that you need to have, especially if you're going to be in IT and you're going to be working on actual hardware. Like I said, I even have smaller bits and screwdrivers and everything else. I've used this one quite a bit, to be honest. This is one of my favorite tools. It's metal. It pops them laptop lids like crazy. But sometimes you don't want to use this because maybe the tabs are too tight. So then you move on to like some of the plastic ones. So I've got to buy a new one of these. I've already snapped that in, but I do have one more in. That's why I haven't bought it yet. But yeah, different stuff. Tweezers. You'd be surprised how many times you've got to go after one little bitty ribbon cable. So you need a set of tweezers. Sometimes you need to use plastic ones because they're too delicate. So having this kind of little small tool kit will actually help you in the long run. And then there's a few other things I'm going to group together with this toolkit. USB drives. You'd be surprised how many times I have used USB drives. So always keep some. This is my collection here at the house. I do have a little bag that I keep that's in the other room that I'm not going to grab, but it also has USB drives. And then this is a power supply tester. This is what I use here mostly, but if I'm going out and about, I will throw this into my bag, and it will allow you to check everything about a power supply and make sure that all the cables are actually working. So just keep in mind that this was only like, I think $15. It's really cheap. Pick one up, and even if you don't ever use it except for once, but you have a problem at your own house, this is a good way to test that. So yeah, just pick one of these up. Like I said, it was 15 bucks on Amazon. Of course, everybody that's ever done anything with PCs, everybody knows thermal compound. Now, I like to use personally MX6. It's a little thicker. I use that on my personal machines, but for my clients, should I say, MX4 is mostly good enough. They're not doing anything heavy or intensive, and this is still really good thermal compound. So having, you know, a thermal compound, this is 45 grams. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right there. That's 45 grams of oil focus. So yeah, that is something that I can use, keep with me, and this is a brand new one. That's why it hasn't been used as much, but yeah. So another thing to use is to check temperatures, and basically this is an infrared laser, and it'll tell you the temperature. It says I am 22.7 C, and then if you want to check it on something different, there you go. Apparently my finger is slightly colder than my body, but yeah, this will allow you to check temperatures. This is really useful without having to plug something up to the CPU. You can kind of find hotspots with that, and it's very useful, very easy to use. So just keep in mind, there is a couple occasions you don't want to use a laser at all, but most of the time you should be fine if you're pointing it at just hardware, and you can kind of find hotspots. You can find, like if you're trying to fine tune the fans, maybe one fan is pushing too much heat and the other one's not pulling enough, and you can readjust the fan curve around to that. So there's multiple uses that you can use with this. I always recommend get one of these. It's cheap. I bought this one at Harbor Freight, I think for $10, and it takes the batteries and it works. It works just fine. So yeah. And then also in the kit, I always keep these whatsoever. Actually, these are the two that I do travel with, and that is a very good USB hub. I like this one because it looks really retro, really fancy, and it hides its cable in here. So this one stays in my bag all the time. And then also I have this one, which technically it's more for like if I have some kind of device that's not giving me a signal, then I can use the USB-C and I can have a display port, two HDMIs, or I also have a VGA. So that is something that's useful, plus 3 USB. And I believe it's, yeah, they're all 3 USB too. Irregardless, it works. As you can see, I have definitely used this thing. There's a dent here, but all the ports still work. So I'd much rather take this and this accidentally get ran over or whatever than taking one of my nicer ones. This one stays in my bag. This is my personal use one. But yeah, this one's what I take out to clients and use all the time. So just keep in mind, having a good set of USB hubs are always a good thing to keep in your bag, because you'll never know when you actually need to use them. And one of the other things that I have in here that I will also show you is that I have like these right angle adapters that you can use as well to plug in the system to get into certain things. And then I don't know if I have one in this particular box. I don't think I do. I do have the other way, but this is from USB-C to USB-A, but I also have the reverse. I have where it is USB-A to USB-C, and sometimes I have to use that dongle or that adapter with this dongle, so that way it will actually work and I can get some display or something out if something's not working. So this is, like I said, this is kind of all lumped together. This is kind of the general of what I would just throw in my bag and take with me, with the exception of this. Like I said, I do have a other case that's actually in my bag right now in another room. So just keep that in mind. This is very customizable. You can interchange certain things. So yeah, this is not a, oh, you have to have this. This is, you know, this will help you in the long run if you have these certain things. So another thing that you need to keep with you at all times is some kind of laptop. Now, I can't show you my N2 Air because I'm actually using it right now to record with, as I explained in my last video. But I do have this little laptop, and I grabbed this one because it fits in frame. Would I recommend this exact MacBook? Absolutely not. This is the most terrible MacBook they have ever made. And to give you an example, this is a 12-inch MacBook. It literally just says MacBook, and of course it's going to boot up. You know, having some kind of laptop there will always be your best bet. It will always be something that you need in your bag at all times. If I have to tell you that, hey, what should I travel with? It depends on what you're doing, depends on what kind of application you're using, and depends on your use case. For me, having the MacBook with the applications that I do use, because, you know, once again, some of the applications I use on Linux are also on Brew, so I can use that application on macOS. So using those things, actually, it made sense for me to get a MacBook Air and use that to travel with. Battery life is great. Something like this would not be great. It's actually pretty terrible. But it also, you know, some people may need a Windows machine. Some people may only travel with a Linux laptop. That is great. Just keep in mind, you're probably going to have to plug it in a lot more than you normally would. So that's just something to think about. Okay, so the next thing I kind of want to recommend is actually having some kind of power. So this is a 100-watt U-Green power bank, which will allow you to plug in USB-A to USB-C. And so most of the time I only use the one port, but if I do have to like charge my MacBook, I like to charge it USB-C. This is a 10-foot cable, so I can move around. Having that in your bag is going to be something that you'll be surprised how much you will actually use it. Even if you're transferring data from one PC to another, you might have to use your own cables because they don't have one. Another thing is, now this is Cat 5e. I don't ever carry this with me anymore because I have a Cat 8 that's in my bag right now. But this is a Cat 5e, and this is something I just pulled off my shelf that I used to carry all the time. I don't anymore, but I'm gonna see if I can at least make it go back to where it was. I don't think it's going to, but anyways, so having an Ethernet cable in your bag is always something that you're going to want to use. I have this HDMI cable that I use. It is a very short cable, but this thing is extremely thick and sturdy, like very sturdy. It takes a lot to bend this. And so I can keep this in my bag without being, without worrying that it's actually going to break or kind of shear off an end or whatever, because it's made so well. And as you can see, I have heavily used this thing. This thing's been around paint, if you're wondering what that is. So yeah, that's another thing. Having adapters, video adapters. Now these two in particular are actually mini DisplayPort adapters. This one's to HDMI, this one's to VGA. But just having adapters in your bag, a lot of times I'll keep like a DisplayPort to HDMI or an HDMI to DisplayPort, or maybe even sometimes, depending on where I'm at, I also carry an HDMI to DVI and also an HDMI to VGA. And then sometimes, because they only have a DisplayPort, thanks a lot, Dale, I have to like plug in the DisplayPort to HDMI, then HDMI into like DVI or VGA. Like it's a weird thing, but it gets me by. But having some video adapters are going to be a good thing. And then also battery banks. I cannot tell you how much that you need battery banks. These things should be in your everyday carry. I like this one in particular because it is a outdoor battery bank, so it has a lot of protection, but this is my daily. It just has a lot more milliamp hours, and it's still at 100%. That's good. I don't have to charge it, and it's got a fast charger in it. This thing will absolutely put out the wattage in order to see 78 watts right there. So it will fast charge my phone pretty quick. I could even plug this into my MacBook Air and charge it while I'm going down the road. I don't ever have to, but I'm just saying the option is there. I have tried it. It does work. So keep in mind, this is something that you can use, that you should keep in your bag at all times. Okay, so the next thing that should always be in your bag, especially if you are working on tech, is that you want to have some kind of way to clean the system. Now, I have these disinfecting wipes. This is mostly used for stuff like outside of the case, or even the case itself if there's nothing inside of it, or actually wiping down the desk, wiping down the mouse, wiping down keyboards. Just a cheap disinfecting wipe. This is Member's Mark, so I bought this at Sam's Club, if you know. This is very easy to use, but I don't use this on components. What I actually use on components is I bought this 70% isopropyl alcohol wipes. This is what I actually use to wipe down most of the components that I get in contact with. If it's still not getting good enough, then I have this 91% isopropyl alcohol that I use with a very, very soft brush, toothbrush, and it will definitely clean it. But once again, you have to get a very soft toothbrush in order to do that. And then of course, microfiber cloth. I use this quite a bit to wipe off screens. The best thing that you can use to clean a monitor is to actually use 70% isopropyl alcohol wipes. Wipe it down, then go back with just a microfiber cloth very gently and go across it, and it will pick up everything else that this did not get. So that's something that you need to have in your bag. You got to learn how to clean it. I hate cleaning machines, but if you want them to function and not overheat because of dust, you definitely have to clean them. And then because I had so much on the table, I went ahead and grabbed these as well. This is actually a blower, and I have like little brushes. I have this brush that you can use. I have this little small brush you can get into corners, and this nozzle, it changes out. It's got multiple nozzles that you can use, but you turn it on, it blows. You set the speed like right here, it slides up and down. Having something like this, I even have a bigger one that will absolutely push some air, but having something like this in your kit while you're cleaning is very useful. And you always want something that has some brushes that are very soft, that you can just kind of glide over the electronics and not cause a lot of friction. So something like that does work. I recommend to get something like that. I think you can get these for like $30 on Amazon. Very cheap. Both of them actually charge USB-C. So yeah, just have something in your kit that will clean. If anything, the two main ones that I would recommend out of everything is these alcohol wipes and this. These things will absolutely get you by, but add more to your cleaning kit. The more that you can use, the better off it will be. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to call extras. So basically this is stuff that I carry. You don't technically need to carry, but I like to have it in my case at all times. One of the first things I always carry is super glue. There's a lot of times where just a piece of plastic just needs to be glued back together and leave it be. Don't mess with it. So always carry some kind of super glue. I also carry RAM. You'd be surprised how many times that I get to a customer's house and the RAM stick is actually bad. So I carry RAM sticks that I know for a fact do work. And also I carry an extra SSD just in case. And then I have an enclosure for this. I didn't feel like grabbing it, but yeah, just some extra stuff. I always keep a mouse. I like this mouse. It's like, it won't even pick up on my actual mic because yeah, it's so quiet. You can't even hear this, but yeah, I like to use this one. And then of course, always keep some kind of random box that I can keep, you know, any kind of screws, any kind of bolts, any kind of nuts, any kind of washers. I have, you know, I even have this little Wi-Fi chip in here just in case. I have just random stuff that I can use at all times, just different random stuff. So always having something like this as a way to, you know, use it and have it put together. And if you notice, I didn't close this because it's broke and I need to reglue it. But anyways, so that is something that you can use. And then as you have seen this sitting here, this is something that I recently bought and I am very happy to have this. Basically, this is something called a cyclone seat, and that is the address that you can, you know, go look it up on their website, or you can actually look it up on Amazon. What's great about this supports 450 pounds and it's got like 2 little holes. So with the 2 holes, you basically just pull it out like this. Well, if the thing will get out of the way. And then it locks together. And what that does is it actually gives you a seat right here that you can sit on. And there's sometimes that if I'm at a job, there is no seat. And so having something like this that I can, you know, pop out, and then to close it, you literally just pull it out and then you twist it back together. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And it stays secure. You can put this in your bag. You can put it in your truck. You can put it in your vehicle. It's very simple. Having a seat that I can use to travel with me has been a game changer, especially if I'm tired and I need to sit down just for a few minutes while I'm working on something. I can pop this out, sit down, do what I need to do. And then when I'm ready, just fold it back up and go on my way. So I do hope that helps somebody as far as like thinking about exactly what they want to do for IT. Understand that those are just some basic stuff. There's way more in-depth tools that you can use. And if anybody that is in IT that has other tools that they want to mention, please leave them in the comments and I will pin your comments. And you know, there's multiple different things that you can do, and understand it's different levels of IT. It's not just one thing all combined together. You know, you have anywhere from hardware to software to networking to just, some people only deal with servers. Some people deal with actual laptops and desktops. Some people only deal with setups. I know a guy that works for a company and all he does all day is set up new machines all day long. And so that's something that could happen. So just keep in mind that even though you may not have what you think all the tool sets yet, as long as you have the knowledge and you have a few of these tools, you can get started. You can start your own. You can start helping, you know, your family. You can start helping the neighborhood and get into actually, you know, into the IT field. And even if you don't want to do the hardware stuff, maybe you're more interested in the software. Well, there's a lot of tool sets that's there. And if you want me to cover that kind of video, let me know down below. These are just some of the tools that I personally use every time I go out to do a job. Sometimes I take a really small bag because I know what the job is. Sometimes I haven't got a clue what's going on. So I'll take my big bag and it's full of stuff just in case whatever it is that I can figure out the issue of what's going on. So once again, if you have any tips or tricks or any kind of extra tools that you want to talk about, leave comments down below. Please like and subscribe. And until then, I hope you have enjoyed the slew of videos that has coming. Basically what I was doing is I was trying to make up for January because my goal is 1 video a week, at least 1 video a week. And so now that I'm caught up with the Januaries, because January had 4 weeks, now I can move on to scheduling for February. And I just want to get this video out and say thank you for everyone that supported me. Thank you for everyone that watches us on the podcast. And until next time, God bless. Peace.